And Stu on the mic, broadcasting through the night, talking F1, getting every fact kind of right. From the grid to the finish, they're all in. Top Step Podcast, let the race begin.
Hello. Let us reintroduce ourselves as the Top Step with Rhys and Stu.
Hello, we are back.
It has been a significant amount of time between drinks. We have not had a show since the mid-season break.
Took an extended holiday.
It's funny too, because we've actually only missed one race.
No, I know.
But I reckon it's been well over a month, probably 6 weeks since we've done an episode. So
we say that we've only missed one race, but we have missed a lot.
there's been a lot. We've talked about a lot, but life has happened. And as much as we wanted to do a whole heap of stuff, it just didn't get around. Rhys, you had the illness of all illnesses, which literally took you out of the world for a little while. It's been one of those periods in life where there were just some more important things to do than to talk about Formula One, if you could believe it.
Like recovering from my deathbed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we did have an episode planned that week when you got really crook. So
we absolutely did, but
we did too. Actually,
yeah, we did.
That night.
I said to you, I was like, mate, I can't speak.
So anyway, we're back. The Top Step with Rhys and Stu, back to bring ourselves through to the close of the season. In fact, I actually think the only real reason that we did not produce an episode between last and this is just so we could be proven right now. Call the Drivers' Championship, that the Teams Championship was over. I think we called it in, I don't know, the 4th or 5th episode of the year. But Team Championship over as a result of the hottest Grand Prix on Earth in Singapore.
Yeah, absolutely. And with everything going on, congratulations to McLaren. That's a phenomenal effort to take it out that early in the season with such a lead. So props to them.
Phenomenal effort. I mean, it's been done before.
It has been done before.
It's been done before, yes, by Red Bull.
Yep.
Not all that long ago.
And it has been done by Red Bull with a bigger split between drivers.
Funny about that. Anyway, we should get the show underway in our typical fashion. We'll crack our can of Monster. Get the conversation started. As we said, there's been lots and lots and lots of things happen in the F1 world between the last time we were on the show and now. Things like Cadillac confirmed, driver lineup confirmed is probably the biggest one that we missed talking about, but probably not too many surprises there with Sergio and the coolest Australian to not be Australian being signed as well.
I was going to say that the claimed Australian, we do have a really good track record of just claiming people that are kind of Aussie as Aussies through a lot of different networks. So it was about time that we got someone in the Formula One world that is not Australian.
He was just born in the wrong country.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not that he's not Australian. He's just born in the wrong country. It's totally different. Totally unique set of circumstances. But it will be good to see him back on the grid next year as well with Sergio. Very exciting. Cadillac. I think every time I checked in on Cadillac, there was a new amount of money that they'd spent getting to the grid next year. I think we're nearly at $1 trillion for Cadillac to build whatever. There was some stupid statistic that they were spending $1 million a week building facilities and wind tunnels and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's probably enough for Veruca Stroll to go and say, Daddy, we need a new wind tunnel at Aston Martin. But it's going to be very exciting to see them on the grid next year. But lots to talk about out of the weekend. Of course, we have just finished what I'm going to say probably outside of the first 3 corners was probably a pretty plain Grand Prix. We've spoken about Monaco at length about being probably the most boring Grand Prix in existence at the moment, but Singapore's not far behind it.
Especially for a street circuit as well. There's not a lot they can do. I know there's not like they can do at Singapore as well, but there's not a lot they can do at Monaco. And at least Monaco has the F1 heritage and all of that prestigious things behind it. But yes, definitely stood out to me this year, especially that it's one of the boring races.
I can't remember who it was who said it, but there was somebody involved in Formula One. I think it might have even been the CEO of Formula One who came out and said that young fans now don't care about track heritage. They only care about interesting racing. Well, I can tell you what, there was nothing interesting about Singapore other than that first incident that we need to talk about. Try and get some order into things. We'll have a quick look first and foremost at the race results and just a little bit of a rundown of the race itself. And of course, a pretty dominant weekend, I would like to say, from George Russell, taking out a win. Excuse me, with Max Verstappen finishing second, Norris third, and of course Oscar Piastri fourth. We will get to Rhys Ranksome. I know most of you turn up for that as well. But what did you make of the performances overall? Were there any standout surprises coming back into it?
George was the absolute standout for me, and I'll get into a little bit more of that more as to why in Rhys Ranksome, but he to do what he did in that Mercedes, to just find the pace, and he's sort of been there in third and in fourth and things like that, but to pit pole and then to sort of drive away the way that he did at the start of the race was mega surprising.
It still surprises me, and I needed to go back and double check on it, and I think I'm confusing myself with Yuki Tsunoda. But I think I may have uttered at some point in time a crazy suggestion that he might not be in Formula One next season. And I'm wrong.
Well, it's only just come out today or yesterday, I think, that he's got a potentially 1+1 contract with Mercedes, which still, to me, being that caliber of driver, is nuts as to who else they would put in that sort of seat.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing that I didn't realise until very recently is that, of course, George's management team is also the team that he races for. So there's obviously some sticking point around his contract and the length of his contract and the value of his contract. And it's a little bit difficult when you're negotiating with your boss who's negotiating with themselves. So
it kind of leaves him in a little bit of a sticky pickle. But if you do remember, when that all came to fruition was why he went to Williams and did the time at Williams that he did to sort of be ready when they needed him for Mercedes. But at the time they were seven-time constructors champion. So. Yep. As a rookie coming in and being like, the most successful team currently wants to manage me and run me, sweet. It sounds like a green light to me. But now he's in the position where he probably needed some outside counsel.
Maybe he needs to get Fernando Alonso to become his agent as well. He could add to his stables along with Gabriel Bortoleto, of course. A pretty average weekend for Alpine, my favourite whipping horse. They re-signed Pierre Gasly in some inspired decision that they made, whilst Franco Colapinto still remains unsigned for next season. But they had a decidedly average weekend.
I do just need to point out in regards to the Pierre Gasly re-signing, I did question it, and your response was great in terms of, well, no one else wants to go there and no one else wants him, so it works.
It absolutely makes sense for them to re-sign him, and I look forward to seeing how they go next season, because they're a mess. Again, talking about a mess and potentially, I'm just having a look through qualifying results now just to try and keep everybody on the same path. Esteban Ocon, probably failed signing of the year for me. I cannot get the image of that mechanic. I think we speak about him every week, shaking his head, questioning the decision to bring him to the team. He qualified 17th, whilst his teammate qualified 9th. Mm-hmm. His rookie teammate qualified 9th. And the only good thing is that he just out-qualified Pierre Gasly, so their rivalry continues. Yuki Tsunoda managed to make his way into Q2. I have a couple of things to say about him a little bit later on in the program, but good to see him get into Q2, unfortunately not into Q3. Your mate Hulk, obviously as well, just managed to miss out on that. And then the top 10, pretty much just regular customers at the moment. Performance for mine. Go on.
We've sort of just got 8th, 9th, and 10th just fluctuating. Who's just in and who's just out. Like I feel like at the moment everyone out in Q1 is the usual sort of culprits. But again, that sort of 16th, 17th, and 8th, 9th, and 10th sort of just fluctuates, and everything else has been pretty much cemented for the last few races.
Yeah, par for the course. Hadjar a little bit lower than he probably expected, but still outperforming Liam Lawson as well. So, again, rumours of him just negotiating that death seat in the second seat. But you know what? I've got something on that as well.
Sorry, I was waiting for your information.
No,
I was just going to say that whilst Hadjar's position 8th probably wasn't where he wanted to be, looking at he's got Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, and Mercedes ahead of him, and he's in the sister Racing Bulls team. It's still in the scheme of where everyone else is. It was still a great result for him, I believe.
I think what I was going to say is I think that the death seat will die this season. I don't think that death seat's going to exist into next year because of the death of Christian Horner at that team. And I think we've seen a change in the way the team has run significantly enough that Hadjar, having worked with the now team principal at Racing Bulls, that will be enough to convince him to give that second seat a crack at Red Bull Racing.
Do you think it's a change in mindset in terms of the way, obviously with Horner gone, he sort of favoured Vettel, he favoured Ricciardo when he was coming into it, and then Max. So there's always been a clear 1-2 sort of driver and who gets that yes, no questions, the car built around, setup built around, all that sort of thing. I think there's a clear change, I think, coming, like you're saying, going into next season, as to it's not a clear split as to let's make one driver phenomenal and the other driver just picking up the pieces when he can.
Yeah, I do. I think you're right. I think even in looking at Yuki's performances, while they haven't been Max-like performances, nobody on the grid at the moment can deliver a Max-like performance other than Max. But the car, they've still got to work with the car they've built. So, they've picked it up mid-season and they're trying to fix a broken toy with, one eye on next season, one eye on keeping Max still in the Drivers' Championship, which he still is, albeit it's difficult. So I think absolutely there's a shift from a one-driver team with somebody else to we're a team, we've got to win the Constructors' Championship. We're not that far in front anymore that we can rely on Max plus a few extra points from whoever else is in the other car to get it done. So, yeah, 100%. I think it feels different. And I'm not even there, but it feels different when you're watching it. The way that they go about it, even the way Max is in the car. When we got to the end of the phase of Horner, you could tell Max was frustrated with the fact that they weren't making any progress with fixing the same issues that he would report and have to drive around every single week. He had issues this week in the race with the downshift.
Yep, downshift and the brakes.
And just the way that he was talking, the tone of voice, it sounded more like this is a problem we're facing today, not this is the same problem I've been telling you about for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and we're just not getting anywhere, and you're expecting me to whip out these results. So it just felt different this weekend. They had a problem, they worked around it. He brought home second. I do. I think you're right. I think that it's a team. It feels more like a team.
Which is just never been the way.
No.
But the downshifting has been a problem for Max for a little bit of time with the car, but they're picking up the pace and that as well. So I feel like it's not a stagnant issue. So like the car's sort of growing, and listening to some of the feedback that isn't on the F1 televised, he was a little bit more specific in what he was saying, but then it got to 3 parts through the race, and he's like, "No, shit, downshift."
No, and the car
So,
just destroyed
yeah.
itself. But obviously,
Yeah.
obviously, a difficult track as well. I mean, if we switch across to the race, not talking about it in any particular order. Of course, we saw Lewis Hamilton. I can't remember the last time I saw sparks coming out of the left-hand front corner brake of a car, but 2 laps to go, or 3 laps to go, he'd chased down Kimi Antonelli and he completely lost his brakes. I think on the last lap, he lost something like 44 or 45 seconds to Fernando Alonso, and then got a 5-second time penalty as well for going off track.
Once we get through the race results, I do have more on that, so we'll circle back.
Cool. So let's get through that. Basically, the race, other than that early incident, pretty plain, as we've said. George Russell, a well and truly deserved win. He managed the race really well. Had a fantastic afternoon or evening in Singapore. Max equally had a very Max-like performance. Lando third, Oscar fourth, and Kimi Antonelli coming home in fifth. That was a solid drive back from him after his pit stop. And he did a great job along with Fernando Alonso to get back to seventh after his extended stop.
10-second pit stop.
Which we'll talk about as well. So outside the top 10, Sainz from Williams, good drive back from him, starting from the back of the field.
Yeah, after the DQ, after the disqualification in qualifying.
Yeah, for both cars for issues
wing infringement
with their wings. Hadjar 11th, Yuki Tsunoda 12th, Stroll in 13th. Actually, not a bad result from him, given that he basically drove the entire race on one set of tyres and pit with 10 laps to go, as I think Alex Albon did as well. Lawson 15th, disappointing from him after some strong results. Colapinto 16th, Bortoletto 17th, a real surprise. And then the participants, Ocon, Pierre Gasly, and your mate, the Hulk, with a very average weekend by his standards as well.
Especially starting in P11, he had some issues. Again, just something that wasn't televised all that great was the issue that he did have. So I think it was behind Colapinto. Colapinto braked quite early, and then his rear locked on him and he spun. So
that threw him into a spin.
Yeah. Unfortunate, and especially seeing P11 with a hard track to pass, it was expecting a bit more, but running tyres late and all that sort of thing. So,
we'll quickly roll through team standings. Of course, McLaren, as you mentioned at the top of the show, taking out the team championship for the second year in a row. An amazing turnaround for them as a team to get back-to-back team championships for the first time back-to-back since Senna and Prost. So not even during the West domination years were they that successful as a team. Of course, having back-to-back, I believe, drivers' champions then. Mercedes still in second, but Ferrari in third, and Red Bull only 8 points now behind Ferrari.
You mean Max Verstappen?
Sorry, behind Max Verstappen. Williams then, 188 points behind then. So look, the top four is set. Unless there's some sort of diabolical outcome there. But certainly that race for the Garagista, the fifth position, is well and truly alive. Racing Bulls 30 behind Williams after their weekend, with not a strong weekend. And Aston Martin as well, closing that gap to only 4 points to the Racing Bulls. And Kick Sauber not out of it with 55. So if they can pull another rabbit out of a hat, Bortoletto has had some really strong results of recent time, as obviously has the Hulk with his first podium this season in his career. So it's still all to play for in that bottom half and in the top half. But congratulations go out to McLaren.
Yeah, big time.
Moving on to drivers' standings, there's a lot of machinations here that we can talk about, but let's just focus on it as it lies for the minute. Oscar Piastri losing a little bit of his lead this weekend to Lando Norris, still out in front on 336, 22 points in front of Lando on 314. Max Verstappen closed the gap ever so slightly to both of those in front of him, finishing second, but obviously in front of both of the McLarens. He needs to do that, to keep it simple. He needs to do that every race from here on in to make sure that he still stands a chance. If there's a DNF from either of the McLarens, that's a big boost for him. But basically, he needs to win, and the McLarens need to finish third or lower every race from here on out for him to take out the title. Definitely not out of the question with some of the tracks we're going to. And the Red Bull has looked strong, and the McLaren has looked a little more vulnerable than it did during the domination that they've created over the last sort of 18 months. So
after Singapore, every track left on the calendar Max has won at. So Singapore, he has never won at. So getting that P2 was good for him in points wise. But every other track going to the end of the season, he has won at before. So just a little bit of info moving forward for that.
And I feel like the gap that's closed, McLaren dominated with tyre management. That's how they've got to where they've got to through their braking system, getting the most out of the hard tyre, but looking after it well. I feel like that gap has bridged because in Singapore, temperature control, brake temperatures, etc., you would have expected probably to see more fall off if that gap was bigger. But in terms of lap times and things like that, obviously there's the disturbance in the air and things like that they talked about at Singapore, which also impacted a little bit. But it's I definitely feel like certainly Lando will be feeling the pressure both top and bottom, and Oscar probably from other factors that we'll talk about in a minute. But I definitely feel like there's a fifth on the card here. It's definitely. It's not the longest shot you've ever seen. If there was anyone who's going to be able to do it in this position, it's Max. So I can't wait.
Yep, and for us to say that, we wrote this off when we saw the McLaren dominance and the tires and everything like that. We wrote this off that this was going to happen. So to see the comebacks, to see obviously, unfortunately, Oscar had the DNF and Lando finished outside the podium at the previous race. So. Yeah, I wasn't.
And who won those races?
Exactly, and Max was there. Max was there to win. So we did say, unless the wheels fell off, and I feel like Oscar having a DNF and Lando finishing so far off the podium was a big, almost the wheels falling off. They at least lost two. So it's still on. It's absolutely still on, and it's going to be an exciting end to the season.
And look, it's still on for George as well to get into third.
Can you imagine if George just wins every race from here in?
It's crazy. The end is crazy. And last year, obviously, the end was crazy too with how close it got, and the Red Bull dying off and the McLaren getting stronger. But it could be inverted this season. And it could go the other way. So Charles in fifth, Lewis in sixth. I'm not sure, and obviously we'll do a post-season review. I'm not sure that sixth in that Ferrari is actually that bad a debut season for Lewis. He keeps having issues still, but it's building. If we're being positive, it's building. It's definitely building more than Ocon at Old Haas there, and I dare say as well, just briefly, that it's building way better than one particular driver at Williams, who apparently is still getting used to the car, albeit by the time he does, there'll be a new car next season that he won't actually have driven before, and you have to get used to that as well.
Know how to drive. I think the expectation from Hamilton was that it's Lewis Hamilton, and I think that we would have the same expectation if Max was saying that next week he was going to go drive for a different team. We would have that same expectation because it's Max.
Yep.
But what we didn't see, we sort of saw that when the Mercedes sort of dropped off and Lewis's last season in Mercedes, it wasn't there. So it's where that sort of, I don't want to say that he's lost the edge because he hasn't in any way, shape or form, but it's that familiarity with a car that's successful and winning, and then sort of getting back into that mid pack and doing those things again that he may not have been used to sort of doing for some time.
True. Yeah, I think you're spot on. Because it's not like his teammates blown him out of the water either.
No.
So, it's a car thing.
It's a Ferrari thing.
It's a Ferrari thing. Kimi
It's a
Antonelli in
shitbox.
7th, still leading rookie this season. And I think we predicted that he's got to get over the ton to get Lewis's record of the most points in a rookie season. I think he'll get there still comfortably. I know he's slowed down the pace, but he had a strong weekend this weekend. Albon in 8th. That's a fantastic result no matter what happens from here on out for Williams. He's scored more points by himself than Williams have, I don't know, for like the last decade or something like that.
It was the last 2 seasons combined.
Seasons. Yeah. So a good result from him.
Just him.
Hadjar in 9th is the other rookie, but he's 49 points away from, and that's terrible maths, but he's a number of points away from Kimi Antonelli, and your mate Nico's still holding on to 10th place. So it's really, really, really well set up for an amazing finish to the season. We've got 6 races to go, some sprints dribbled in there as well, as we head to America for the next Grand Prix, I think, unless I've got that wrong. Yes, America for the
absolutely.
next Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So now that we've spent most of the show talking about all of that stuff, it's been great to catch up with you all, and we'll see. No, we've got to keep on. Let's push on into. You've done a heap of preparation for this today, so. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with Rhys ranks them and then lead into the minutiae of things that we need to talk about? Because we did say that we feel like probably half the show is going to be McLaren. So
we've just changed from a Red Bull show to a McLaren show. But no, absolutely can jump straight into Rhys ranks them, and thank you for joining me again for another episode. I'm going to go from last to first, because from 20th position, Nico Hülkenberg, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Bortoleto, Colapinto, Lawson, Albon, Stroll, and Tsunoda up to 12th. I've given D's to, for obvious reasons for all of them. Hadjar, I've given a C. He did still have an okay race with some good defending against Alonso, even if Alonso didn't think it was good defending. Some nice, clean defending. He was noticing an engine issue as well that I didn't see that Lawson did. So to still outperform his teammate with the same car with an engine issue was fantastic. So I've given him a C. Carlos Sainz, I've given an A to, and I was a little bit taken from this, but from a poor grid position with the disqualification in qualifying to P10 on a very hard to pass circuit. I know it was helped by tyre delta, different pit stop strategies, but a drive from the backs to the points in a Williams is still a fantastic effort. So points when points are due. Bierman, I've given a B+ to. Hamilton a B-. He had the pace, fastest lap, fresh off tyres, but obviously penalties, lack of brakes, track limits issues, dropped him that 5-second penalty behind Alonso. Alonso B-, Leclerc a B, Kimi Antonelli a B, Piastri an A, and Norris I've given an A+. And we will touch on this in a little bit, but I do just want to say that regardless of the incident, I have hammered Norris that he is not hungry and he is not aggressive and he doesn't take risks and things like that. So to see him do that, I think, again, gives some points. Max, I've given an A2, and George Russell an A+, and an absolute dominant drive from George. Pole to the win, controlled the race with authority, but it did almost seem like he knew he needed to get out in front as far as possible to reduce some pressure on himself. And I don't know if that's some PTSD from 2 years ago. So yeah, when he went for the gap, and the gap was the wall where it said Singapore.
Yep.
The gap was obviously helped by Max holding the grid back and Max towing Lando along in the DRS. But that is Rhys Ranksome.
You bring up, and I pretty agree with some of those things as usual, not all of them, but that's okay. That's why it's Rhys Ranksome. You bring up a good point, actually. The DRS this weekend was less of an advantage than it ever has been before, to the point where Max was keeping Lando in DRS so that he was in the disturbed air behind the car, which meant that it basically was just easy to manage. So it's an interesting track, Singapore. I don't think I'd be that disappointed if it dropped off the list, to be honest.
I feel like, and gonna jump from here, gonna go into moments of the race. So I'll just hold that for a second, but flow on to that moment of the race is actually Max towing Lando, and this comes from the qualifying, and Max was saying the disturbed air from Lando in front of him, and he'd slowed down and pulled in. After the qualifying press conference, he said he'll remember that. And then for the majority of the race, Max just kept him in the dirty air. When he got to 0.4 behind Max pulled the gap out to 1.1 seconds and then back to 0.9 to get him back into the DRS. And that is why he was doing a Carlos Sainz, and he was pulling Lando along to keep himself dropping back to get attacked by Oscar, and he just played it so well. And again, I think he was just, after the qualifying, everything like that, he went, you know what, stuff ya, you're coming along for the ride with me.
Maybe
and
some Ford HS.
Yeah, absolutely. Managing the car issues that he had, and he went off a couple of times and things like that to drive. So that was my absolute moment of the race. What was yours?
Mine was the Aston Martin team radio for the race, because there wasn't a lot else in it for me, to be brutally honest. The engineer, Alonso's engineer, coming over the radio telling him that there's 34 laps to go, and his response being, if you speak to me every lap, I will unplug the radio, in the most dirtiest, I've just had a 18-second pit stop and I'm driving the car response fashion. And then Gary Gannon saying Bortoletto is on 40-lap-old tyres to Lance Stroll after he'd just gone in and got brand new tyres, and Lance coming out in a really, really loud tone of voice.
Veruca Stroll voice.
Saying, yeah, my mediums feel like 100 laps old. And it was just, that was actually very amusing from both of them. So they were my moments of the race. The team radio from the guys at Aston Martin were good in that latter stages. You've put down here, what is the F1 TV director even doing at this point? Now, this is your version of my version of Sky Sports Australia should not make any comments on Formula One. And I think they did it again while we were on hiatus.
But of course.
But this drew my attention. I think there's a couple of things that I could probably point to that you might be talking about, but I'll let you take it away, mate. What's got your goat this time with the way that they display the sport?
So early in the episode, you mentioned that the I think director of Formula One, or the head of Formula One, came out and said that people are wanting interesting races, and they're wanting this and they're wanting that. They were saying that young people don't like watching long races. So when it gets to that mid section and it's all a little bit boring and things like that.
Attention spans, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The 5-second videos and brain rot, whatnot. But
6-7.
Absolutely.
Going on in my house at the moment. Yep.
So what in the hell is the Formula One TV director doing when there is actually action on the screen? We are watching Lewis Hamilton come on the radio and saying, I've lost my brakes. Now, when I heard this, because the Formula One TV director was nowhere near them, I had figured he was having a hydraulic issue. He was having an overheating brake issue. He was literally sparking from the front brake discs. He had no material left on his brakes. He was driving all over the shop, over track limits, just trying to get the car around. Now, we watched a 40-second gap from Alonso to Hamilton just tumble in a lap. And the second lap, I think it was 3 or 4 seconds behind, and the Formula One TV director is zooming in on drivers' girlfriends in the pit lane. Watch the timing screen. So we're the whole Formula One is talking about exciting moments and trying to get new people to watch it. Now, young people don't like long races. There is fire coming from a Ferrari getting chased down by Fernando Alonso, and we're looking at Lando's girlfriend in the pit lane. I was so mad.
Yeah,
and I'm even more mad because being in Australia, we don't have the F1 button that you can change the car to. So I literally had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, and at the end of the race, when that gap was closing, they were watching the guys pulling, and even I think Martin was saying, like, they're watching the guys pulling into the 1, 2, 3 and getting out of the cars and stuff, and they're commentating the racing that's still going on and didn't cover it at all. But the zoom into the, I mean, I get they're nice looking people or whatever the case might be, but who cares? I don't care who any of them are dating. Like, I want to watch the race. I don't like, but they do it all race. So yeah, I agree with you.
My second thing that really grinds my gears is that we were hearing about the Lewis Hamilton chasing down Kimi Antonelli, and then it goes to a replay that was 10 laps ago
Yes.
with him passing Carlos Sainz, and the commentators were that confused, like, oh, Lewis, because they were just talking about it, asked for the replay, got the replay of Sainz and Charles Leclerc and Kimi Antonelli, and they're like, oh, Lewis got past Kimi and then Kimi got back past him, but it was Kimi passing Charles Leclerc from 10 or so laps ago.
But they missed the whole thing. They missed Lewis passing him and him then passing Lewis when Lewis ran wide or had brake fail or lock up or whatever it was. I don't know. We didn't get to see it.
I've got no idea. And at a race that not a lot happened for 40 laps, there was so much excitement in the last stage. Lewis found himself with a free pit stop. I think it was a 40-second gap, free pit stop onto softs, fastest lap time, chasing down Antonelli at an alarming rate. I think the predictor came up on the screen that Lewis was going to be there in one lap, and we're still not watching anything.
And then we were watching something else. Yep.
And we're watching and I understand we did watch Lando and Max do their thing, but we watched that for like 7 laps, and it was the same. So you can kind of, and again, this is my plea, watch the timing delta. Like, watch the timing tower. Watch the information that you've got in front of you, because you can, if Lando got up to Max and was overtaking Max, you will see that gap on the screen come down, and we can change. But when there's something exciting going on, just press the button.
Just move across.
Press the button.
Show us what we want to see.
So yes, that's what's really grinded my gears with them.
All right, we've held off long enough. I think we've got about 10 minutes or so left deliberately to talk about the thing that everybody was talking about, which of course is the incident at the start of the race that saw Lando make an aggressive move, quite fine, aggressive move, but then saw him contact the back of Verstappen and move across and bump into Oscar Piastri. Fortunately, no damage, no flat tyres, no into the wall. But then that radio exchange afterwards of Oscar asking the team if that's how we're going to go racing now, effectively, I summarise, but if is that how we're going racing now? Is that what we consider good team play? We won't... The incident's the incident. The very first question I have for you before we go into just covering off why this has got to this stage is, if it was Liam Lawson running into Fernando Alonso, would anyone be talking about it at all? No.
It was a lap, was it corner 3, aggressive incident that everyone come out of. It was racing.
Yep. I think
it was racing.
I think
that's okay with me.
I think the world agrees with you. I do. I think everyone agrees that it's a racing incident and there was no damage. So therefore, as in there was no, the only person who got damage actually was Lando with the end plate on the front wing.
From the contact with Max,
with Max, yep.
That Max didn't even realize that he'd contacted him. So and that's the level that it was.
And there was no unfair advantage gained because Lando was going to get the position anyway on Oscar. So, which leads into your excellent work that you put together today. Why are we here? Why are we even talking about this?
McLaren has created this animal. They've created the problem for themselves. Now, I will summarize everything that I've sort of gone back to, but going back through last year, I think it all started back at the Hungarian Grand Prix. A lot of back and forth from McLaren and Lando and Oscar's team, Oscar's radio. Finally, Lando swapped positions, giving Oscar his first race win. And we spoke about that last season. It was a little bit, it is what it is. 2024, at the Italian Grand Prix, we had the close lock-up from Oscar almost going into Lando, and that's when they sort of had their conversation afterwards and their contracts and their Papaya rules and their rule of not coming into contact. But then the team hasn't stepped away. The team has kept in the drivers asking them to do things. So team orders to swap position in Brazil, sprint to give Lando the win, Lando letting Oscar pass in Qatar, sprint to pay him back. Now that we're at the end of the 2024, everything seemed to settle. Started 2025, Oscar was told not to attack Lando at the Australian Grand Prix till the traffic cleared up. Norris caused a collision at Canada.
Just pause you there just for 1 second, and I'm sorry to interrupt. Let's keep in context that in 2024, Lando could have challenged for the world title. Oscar could not. So let's just keep that in the back of our heads as we go through what you're about to go through.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. So started 2025, Oscar was told not to attack Lando at the Australian Grand Prix until the traffic cleared up. Norris caused a collision at the Canadian Grand Prix, causing him to DNF, which he immediately came out, owned up to. Close call by Oscar at the Austrian Grand Prix with a wheel lock-up whilst close to Lando. Piastri asked to swap positions at Silverstone after what he called an unfair 10-second penalty on the safety car restart, which was declined. Lando won at Hungary 2025 with a one-stop strategy, even though he was behind Oscar. Oscar ran on the two-stop. The Italian Grand Prix this year, after the team asked Oscar to give a struggling Lando toes in qualifying, leading to Lando out qualifying Oscar in the race. McLaren then made Oscar swap positions with Lando after Oscar pitted first, and Lando had a slow pit stop, causing to lose position. So not only did he play the team game the entire weekend, getting Lando into Q3, giving him the toe, giving him that lead, and now we're at Singapore. So Lando's aggressive starts to the race, ending up sandwiched between Max and Oscar. He didn't re-wheel of Max, pinballing into Oscar. All of this has come down to two races now going for the world title. But all of those things that I've just sort of ran through are sort of give and take, but it's now just take. And we've got Oscar, who's leading the championship, not getting any benefit from that whatsoever. So the question I have for you after going through all of this is McLaren, obviously up until this point, we're trying to win the team title. Are the gloves now off? Is this where we see both drivers not listening to team requests? Because at the end of the day, the team's won what they can win. Now it's up to the drivers are going to go for what they want to win.
I think it depends on how aggrieved Oscar feels, because there's always, so let's say he goes solo, and no longer listens. There's always that grey cloud hanging over your head of, yeah, but what if in the last race of the season, I need to switch positions with him because Max is breathing down my neck, points-wise, let's say as a thing. What if I need Lando's help down the track and he won't give me that help because I've, done whatever I've done to extend the lead over him to such a point that, he's now in trouble with Max or however, whatever version of that plays out. So the gloves are off if Oscar thinks he can win. And the thing that I go and look at is, I think it's 88 or maybe 89 Senna Prost. In fact, it's both those years where the gloves were off and they fought and they still won the team's championship. But the gloves were off, and then obviously there's collisions in Japan and the running into and the theft of the title and all those things that went on. And so McLaren are here now because of that history. But they've, in my opinion, they've created the monster inadvertently by talking about it too much.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you a question regarding the 88, 89? Do you think that the team could have had anywhere near these conversations with Senna and Prost? Do you think that either of those drivers would have listened or followed team instructions or anything like this in any way, shape, or form and part of the season? Absolutely not.
Not at all.
No.
Because both of those drivers were killers.
Yeah. And that's where I think they have just hoped. I think McLaren, up until this point, have hoped that someone would be the clear leader of the Drivers' Championship. And I think for a lot of reasons, they were hoping Lando would be it 50 points away from Oscar. And then they can say, all right, cool, guys, Lando's 2 races away in terms of points. Now let's get a 1-2 in the driver standings, but this is where they're at. But being as close as they are now, I don't know what they're expecting to happen.
I think that the problem that we've got now is that if you go back to the 90s and even the 2000s, Schumacher and Barrichello, if this was the same circumstance, Schumacher would have probably tipped him off the track. In a nice way. But the problem that we've got now is that everybody wants to be friends.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know what McLaren said behind closed doors. We never will. But you can't have 2 drivers win the world title. At some stage, you have to back a horse. And so, yes, that's why now the gloves are off, because now they can't lose the team championship. Financially, that's massive for them. They can't lose that. But at some stage, there's gonna be an explosion that's gonna go one way or the other, and they're gonna lose a driver as a consequence of it.
Like a Hamilton-Rosberg type scenario?
Yeah, or like a Senna Prost setup where Prost says, "Well, I'm retiring after I've won this because I can't race with him anymore, and I'm gonna move teams or do whatever I'm gonna do." And there's already, whether you believe them or not, there's already utterances of Ferrari potentially trying to lure Oscar across to take over from, I'm assuming it's going to be Leclerc because they've signed Hamilton on a $6 trillion, 432-year deal. Unless they're planning on parking him to be an ambassador and do some other things. But there's already utterances around Norris staying and potentially having Oscar look somewhere else. And that's not an ideal scenario for McLaren either. And again, this is a monster they've created. I think last year they backed Norris clearly because they should have. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think this year they should have said, we're going to back the leading driver. And unfortunately, Lando, now with 6 races to go, we want to do the double. And you're behind. So we're going to I get if you out qualify, I get the pit lane precedent, I get all of that, but we're still going to back Oscar. And people will say, because we're Australian, that we're biased and all that other stuff. If it was the other way around, I'd be saying the same thing. They need to back the driver that at the moment is in the driving seat to win the driver's world title, and that's Oscar.
See, this is like the addition to that is the pit stop error, where Lando was sat for longer than Oscar and Oscar got position. Giving that place back was a big think, turning point for the way that I saw the team, because I thought going forward from the mid-season break that we would see that from there we would have a clear 1-2 driver leading into the end of the season. But Oscar's the leading driver, as in the points. So asking him to give away a win because of an issue in pit stops when that's never been the precedent before is to me just a change. It's no longer as clear as to just don't make contact. It's we're going to get out in front and we're going to choose who wins.
Yeah,
and that annoys.
That's that kumbaya, keep everything harmonious thing as well. I mean, rest assured, the good news is that whatever McLaren have done in the way they've designed their brakes, it doesn't play well with the wheel nuts. And that at some stage throughout the balance of the season, there's going to be another pit lane holdup. They've had, I think it's 6 slow pit stops caused by wheel nuts locking. They're not the only ones who've had them, but they've had the most. And so, they're going to, as I said, there's going to be another challenging call for them to make in the next 6 weeks. There's 6 races. There's no question.
Singapore, Piastri had a 3-second longer pit stop than Lando and finished 2 seconds behind him. So and this is the frustrating part. So you go, okay, cool. Lando, you've had a shot at getting max. Let Oscar past. Like, you're that far ahead in that gap that they can sort of do that. But then there was the Charles Leclerc effect, I guess you could say. But then his brakes started playing up and dropping off. So it's just, I feel like they're trying to, like you say, keep peace, but I feel like they're trying to change the outcome too much, and it's going to blow up where neither one of their drivers is going to win the world title, and then they're going to have 2 great race car drivers pissed off because they didn't get support. Either one of them got the support that they would have expected.
Well, they lost because of indecision.
Correct. Yep.
Because making no decision is almost worse than making the wrong decision. Doing nothing is not a valid strategy in my mind. I think they need to pick a driver and go with it, and then things will change. Like if there's say they choose Oscar and he has a DNF, then Lando goes to within 2 points. You go, okay, cool. Now, guys, it's level playing field pretty much. We're going to have to make decisions on the day to support the strongest driver to give us the best chance of giving one of you the driver's world title. Because you can rest assured that if they keep stuffing up or if they do stuff up, that we'll have the first ever 5-time consecutive world champion. Because, again, I was going to say to you, if this was Max and Yuki or Max and Sergio or Max and just about anyone else, he wouldn't give a rat about team orders or any of that sort of stuff, because he wants to win, because that's what you do as a racing driver.
And that's why I brought up, like, are we going to see that now? And I understand what you're saying about the help, because the team's got what they've can win. They've got their biggest accolade as a team that they can win. So now the drivers are fighting each other. And are they fighting each other, or are they fighting Papaya rules? Like,
even the dynamic in pit lane will change if it hasn't already, which it probably already has. Like, one of the things that I believe from all the stuff I've watched, obviously it wasn't there, but one of the things that I believe killed the Senna Prost thing was when both sides of the garage stopped talking to one another. They stopped sharing data, they stopped trying to help, and it literally became the two of them competing with one another 5 feet from one another in the same garage. And that's where they're headed. And, I don't know, Andrea Stella frustrates me in the way he approaches things, because it's not always calm, but is there no passion? No passion's the wrong way of saying it as well. I'm going to get slammed again for all this sort of stuff. I forgot how fun it is to say things like this and have people slam me in the comments, but he's just always so passive. And I guess you have to be. It's frustrating to watch. It's like, come on, man. Like, we can see it. Why can't you see it? It's annoying.
There was a few comments and a few videos that I've watched over the last couple of days where they've referred to Stella as the stepdad of both of them, who is treading water to keep them both happy, because he's not their real dad, but he needs to keep both of them happy, and he's got 2 performing stepsons that he needs to work with. And it was it was just a good thing, because exactly that, he's just all the time with everything.
The one other cat amongst the pigeons is next season, because there's no guarantee that McLaren are going to be strong next season. There's guarantee we don't know anything about what's going to happen next year, other than probably Aston Martin will be a lot stronger than they are this year with whatever Adrian Newey puts out. The dust.
The Newey dust.
Absolutely. So, there's that. So you go, okay, cool, support the wrong driver. Whoever wins the world title, if neither of the drivers win the world title in an un-Australian, what I hope happens, I hope Max gets 5 in a row. I really do. I think he'll pull the pin if he wins 5 in a row. But if he wins 5 in a row, I'm okay with that. But then next season, McLaren bomb, their car's a tip, they go to the back of the pack, and they lose Oscar because Lando's there again until he's 87.
See, and that's where that sort of tinfoil hat conspiracy sort of is going in terms of they're saying that Lando's owed this championship. But the way that he's driven up, and that's why I said so, it was great to see a little bit of fire, a little bit of passion, and a little bit of aggressiveness in his driving. The way he's driven this year, he doesn't deserve anything. No one deserves that title. Oscar has come in, much less experience, much less time in the Formula One car, and just hit the ground running. And we've seen that growth through him, and we've seen him overtaking Max. We've seen him pull moves on Hamilton, things that Lando has still not yet to do. So, I just want to pull back to McLaren have created this issue for themselves, and I'm with you. If it's not an Oscar, title, next up I do hope that Max just comes in and does his 5th. And I think you're right. I think he'll just go and win races in Ferraris at Nords.
Yeah, like he already has done. So, and look, we'll get lots of anti-Norris haters saying that we're against Lando. Not at all.
Sorry, Luke.
Yeah, sorry, Luke. Shout out to Luke. Not at all. I think, and I actually think if we get to the end and they all and whoever wins out of the 3, they deserve to win the world title. There's no question, because they've got the points and they do it. But I think if Max wins this title, if it's a big if, this will be his greatest world title.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a full turnaround for the team. It's a full turnaround from McLaren as well. And he managed to eke out performances in a rubbish car early enough in the year to give himself, a chance to make it happen. Do I think it will? I don't think it will. But if it were to happen, he's the only one who could do it. I think I said that earlier in the show. So
I absolutely agree. If that, you're absolutely right. If anyone can do it, Max can do it, because he just pulls performance out of nowhere.
So drop your dreamer boy comments in the bottom and all the rubbish that you'll throw at us. But look, it's a big talking point. It's a really, really difficult circumstance to navigate. I don't think there is a right answer for it, because McLaren were damned if they do, damned if they don't. But I just think that we said shows ago, that they needed to make a call. And the call at that point in time that they would have made is still the call today, because Lando hasn't taken over the lead of the Drivers' World title. We said they needed to support Oscar, and I think in an unbiased world, we would have said that to whomever was leading at that point in time to make that decision. And you know what? Had they made that decision, it wouldn't have changed the outcome for the Teams World Championship.
I know we'll come across as Lando haters, but as you said before, and I completely agree, if it was turned on its head and Lando was 22 points ahead and Oscar was behind, I'd be saying exactly the same thing, that they need to back Lando and they need to get it done, because it's not set in stone. It's absolutely...
Sorry, come.
Oh, no, I was going to say, it's not set in stone. If both of the drivers were way ahead and there's no way that they could lose it, then they can choose. But it's not done yet.
Gut feel for me is that Oscar would help, and I think we'll see Lando not. gut feel for me. We'll see. But I think Lando will be non-compliant before Oscar will be.
If it was before this weekend, but I think he'll still help Lando. I think he's just got that in him that he will help Lando, and we've seen that before this weekend. But seeing the team make the decisions, and I again, that racing incident from this weekend was just a racing incident.
Absolutely, it was.
Absolutely, it was. But to not have any sort of that sort of support the last couple of races, I think he's turning.
Yeah, and again, the only reason we're talking about it is because they're 1 and 2 in the history. It's got nothing to do with this this weekend at all. So do Max Verstappen. Let's see what happens. Mate, that's the hour done. It's been a full show where we've managed to not talk about McLaren for the entirety of it, but we've got a week or two's break actually in the calendar. While everything gets transported across to the US of A, and then we're back. So
we'll have a pre-race show as per previously.
Yeah,
our weatherman might be back from holidays then as well.
Ooh, fantastic. So yeah, it's been good to be back. I love, obviously, again, if you're new to the show, you can see you might not agree with everything we have to say. We definitely say multiple times across the top of the show. We don't always get all of the facts right. It's just two blokes who love talking about Formula One. We're not easily offended. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you think. Do you think McLaren have done it all right? They've got 100% correct this season because the end justifies the means. They won the Constructors title back-to-back, and now it's gloves off. Do you think Max has got a chance? Do you think in some outrageous set of circumstances George Russell's going to bring it home? Let us know what you think. I don't even think mathematically he can do that, by the way. But if you think he can, let us know how you think that might be possible.
I was going to say, unless Antonelli's out there playing Mario Kart, I'm not sure. Just taking out the other 3 drivers, I don't think it could work, but I'll run some calculations.
If they all don't finish, is probably how George just will get it done.
Throwing bananas out the side of the car.
Get some of these happening, and he needs a new celebration. Anyway, as always, thank you very much for joining us on the show. We've dusted off the cobwebs, and we've got a good run to the end of the season. So stay tuned. Make sure you give us a follow on wherever it is that you're listening to or watching the show. And as always, thank you for joining us. This has been The Top Step with Stu. I keep saying your name. I don't know why I keep saying your. It fits well, but I keep saying with Rhys and Stu. But you can say your own name, mate.
With Rhys
and Stu.
That works. Look at that. Ciao.
Well, that's a checkered flag. We're at the end of the race. Thanks for tuning in. You kept up the pace. Rhys and Stu are signing off today, but don't forget